Illinois Liquor Control Commission wants to make sure people aren't confused when buying alcohol. A co-branded alcoholic beverage is one that has the same or similar brand name, logo, or packaging as a non-alcoholic beverage. The ILCC filed an emergency rule to keep these drinks from being displayed right next to soft drinks, fruit juices, and bottled water. Both big and smaller retailers will be required to follow this rule or have signs posted that say the products are alcoholic beverages.
Consumers are busy, busy consumers, parents, grandparents, caregivers. As they're navigating these, grocery stores, these big box retailers, we don't want them to inadvertently grab the wrong product, thinking that they're buying a soft drink or something that's non-alcoholic, especially if they're buying it for, young people in their homes.
The emergency rule is already in effect and will last until October. The ILCC is already working to make the rule permanent.
Well, today